So we know the playoff selection committee respects the Big 12, but what about Vegas? What about those power ratings? What about Vegas? What do they have to say about the Big 12? I was stunned by the level of love from the college football playoff selection committee. If you caught the live show on Tuesday, shout out to our guy, Mac Rhodes, okay? Baylor athletic director, who is the chair of the selection committee this year. Impeccable work, Mac. Impeccable work. The first iteration of the college football playoff rankings. If you need a refresher, BYU at 7, TAC at 8, Utah at 13, 3 Big 12 teams in the top 13. All 3 were ahead of every single ACC team that wound up ranked. Miami was all the way down at 18. You had 1-loss Texas Tech ahead of a 1-loss Big 10 team in Oregon. Not only a 1-loss Big 10 team, but a 1-loss Big 10 big brand in Oregon. You had 2-loss Utah ahead of a 2-loss SEC team in Vandy. Lots of good news there. Lots of good news. Now, what happens when they actually line it up to play some of these teams in the college football playoff? That's what I'm going to tell you about in just one moment. Thanks to FanDuel, which via Josh Pate has given some lines on these games. Okay. But I did want to address this on the playoff rankings real quick. I saw some, I think this was coming from Utah Twitter. I couldn't quite tell that part, but I saw a little bit of pushback on what it actually means for Utah to be at number 13 right now. It does seem like there's a line of thinking from some people out there. And look, if you have cynicism about it, I do think cynicism is pretty well earned at this point. But there seemed to be this cynical take of like, 13 doesn't really mean anything because you're going to have an ACC champ that's not there right now in front of BYU in that pecking order because they get the automatic bid. Same with a G5 champ. Top 5 highest ranked conference champions get in, right? So you have to factor that in. So it's really more like 15. And it's not, look, we know what'll happen when it comes down to it, when it comes time to brass tacks, right? Like Utah will get left out. And I guess I should be more understanding of that because I am about as cynical as anybody when it comes to how the Big 12 is typically treated here. I will just say, I've never seen the Big 12 treated the way that they were in these initial rankings. That's a different level. So if you want to be cynical about, hey, it'll change at the last minute, they'll pull the rug out from under you like TCU in 2014, going from 3 to 6 after winning by 50, I guess I get it. But I truly do think Utah is pretty well positioned here. It is not a slam dunk. It is not a slam dunk because if 3-loss Texas or 3-loss Oklahoma is there, that will be very concerning. Particularly, I think 3-loss Texas with Arch Manning. You get the redemption arc, right? Like he played so poorly for a while. They were teetering on being completely out of the playoff race. And here they come charging back and we can put Arch and the TV ratings and all that stuff. I understand. I get it. That would be the team. That's if Texas A&M and Georgia or even Arkansas get them involved too. The teams left on Texas's schedule could take care of them. Take them out behind the woodshed like Mississippi State and Kentucky couldn't. That would be great. I would appreciate that. But I would also just say, I think there's a lot of chaos coming. And some of that could be for Utah, by the way. Part of this is Utah's got to win its games. Utah needs to beat Baylor, KU, and K-State, but it's a little tougher to see Utah being on the wrong end of one of these upsets when they have beaten everybody in the Big 12 by over 30 points. Literally. I mean, they're just smashing everybody. That would also help, by the way, if Utah can maintain its computer numbers by smashing the rest of the teams on its schedule. But I think if you do that, there's going to be enough chaos in front of you that even with the G6 champ and even with an ACC champ, you're still going to be in a pretty prime position to make the field. Like if we're going through, I mean, not even like chaotic losses, like Oregon still has to play at Iowa this weekend, by the way. They've got to go to Washington, and then they have USC and Minnesota. Those are all teams with pulses. Notre Dame has Navy. They've got USC, Texas. I mentioned they have Georgia, Texas A&M. I mean, hell, Texas should have lost to Mississippi State and Kentucky. They could lose to Arkansas. Oklahoma's got Bama, Mizzou, LSU. Like these are all teams in front of Utah that have plenty of losable games left, and we don't even know what chaos might come. So I think I just wanted to push back on that a little bit. Now, I'm curious what Vegas would think about Utah actually in one of these matchups. All right. I'm going to get to that in just a moment because I don't have that exactly from FanDuel via Josh Pate, but let me show you this tweet from Josh Pate about what FanDuel would say about games that would happen if the season ended today. So, based on the college football playoff rankings, if the season ended today, you would get Oregon at Texas Tech and you would get Notre Dame at BYU. So, here's what that would look like. Notre Dame minus 9.5 at BYU. It would be about the same. We're talking 10.5 this weekend in Lubbock. Notre Dame going to Provo. They would be 9.5 point favorites there. Oregon, only a 1 point favorite at Texas Tech. Now, that I found very encouraging. That shows you again, like there's a lot of respect, not just from those around the college football world, but people who, I mean, it's dollars and cents, man. They're not getting paid to get this wrong. They think Oregon and Texas Tech would be nearly a pick'em toss-up game if that's being played at Jones AT&T Stadium in Lubbock. When was the last time? I mean, I was trying to think like last year, any hypothetical matchup you would have done with Big 12 teams that were in contention would have just been, I mean, at least 9.5, right? Like the second one there, like Texas Tech by the transfer portal, whatever you want to say, money, everything they've done together to put this roster where it's at, like that has made some major market progress on where the Big 12 actually stands in the odds to win college football playoff games, because getting 2 in is great. I think it's important. We all want to see it. That definitely helps with the respect of your conference. But look at the ACC last year. The ACC got 2 in, and they both lost. So how much good did it really do the ACC if Clemson and SMU both got in and lost? Like you need someone to win games, and here is a legit first-round matchup that could really happen. Texas Tech only a 1 point dog, even according to Vegas. Like they're right there. That's a game Texas Tech could definitely win. Could definitely win. Now, why I say like Utah, the hypothetical lines with Utah would be very interesting because I think they would be, fair or not, BYU fans, I think Utah would be looked upon much more favorably by Vegas in these spots because they use a system of power rating, which is where Utah is just frankly ahead of basically everybody in the Big 12. Now, SP Plus, which I like the most from ESPN, still has Tech at 4, Utah at 6. But a lot of these power ratings actually have Utah even ahead of Tech. So they're significantly closer to these teams up at the top. Like I was looking at SP Plus. So Utah is 3 points behind Texas Tech. So if we're talking like that, would it be maybe like a 4 point line if it's Oregon at Utah? I guess the problem there would probably be the other way around. You'd be traveling to Autzen, and then maybe it's like another 2 or 3 points, so maybe 6 or 7. But if we're talking about a 12 seed, right? Okay, a 12 seed, Utah slipping in as a 12 or an 11, whatever it might be. I guess, yeah, maybe an 11. You're an 11 going on the road to a 6. Right now, that's kind of in like Georgia, Alabama territory. Utah's ahead of Georgia and Alabama in SP Plus. So what does that do to, what kind of line would be pumped out there? I'm sure there would be a sizable home field advantage baked into whatever line you would get, but could it be then maybe like Bama -3, Georgia -4, something more like that? I'd be very interested. Like Utah and Texas Tech, even according to what these power ratings in Vegas think, could be very helpful to the Big 12 this year. And I'm not saying BYU couldn't either, by the way. Like I've said many times tonight, I have been wrong at most turns this year about BYU. Just keep winning, and it doesn't matter at all. But I did find that to be very interesting and just a good progress update on where the league is at in trying to gain more respectability from everybody involved. And that, whether they're right or wrong about specific games, that does include Vegas. It does.